I
Yeah.
mean, this of course was going to come up down on this list. We're going to just talk about the first Sharknado, of course. It's a film series, of course, as everyone know who doesn't. If you've never seen this, director Anthony C. Ferret. This is the first one. Star Tara Reid, Cassie. I'm not even going to go through the cast because there's so many cameos of these films. But Tara Reid's in it. Cassie Scarborough, Jason Simmons, John Hurt is all you really need to know. Had a
Mark
budget of
Graff.
Yeah, it had a budget of $2 million, distributed by Asylum. Basically, a sci-fi film about tornadoes and
Killed
sharks.
Sharks.
And let's be honest here. This is a series of films that are absolutely ridiculous to the point of where when we talk about shark films in these reviews here, they do tend to get ridiculous, from sand sharks to lake sharks to swamp sharks. It got to the point of where Sharknado almost seemed like just kind of the natural step of the ridiculous of sharks, because you had Sharkula, all these stupid movies. Like, okay, you know what? Let's just have sharks and tornadoes. That would be the ultimate scary thing. But I have to say, Sharknado is fun. I think they're fun. I don't hate them, and I don't even give them bad ratings at all. I mean, special effect wise, let's just be honest. I mean, they're about
That's
probably
good.
four maybe. I don't even four like. And originality though, I give them a 10. I think it's an original concept,
It
stupid but
is.
original. Um, Stock footage, no stock footage, but
That's
I think they're fun films. I think they have their place in a film history because it shows that you can actually, you know, uh, cater and pander to that kind of audience,
yeah.
an audience that does not really care about a plot or story. They just want to see some of their favorite, people and cameos, which is what I think Shark NATO really
Uh,
marketed towards, bringing some of these actors you haven't seen in years and
yeah.
cameos. I mean, they had Anthony Weiner in one of them.
Yeah.
They had Chris
I think they
Jarrett,
had. I also think they had
Chris
Jared from
Jr.
Subway in one, which
That that's what I'm saying. And it marketed off that, but they're fun films. They're fun. I just think they're
they're
fun.
fun and they're kind of like they're definitely, as far as I remember, like the most successful of sci-fi's original movies.
Right.
Because this is just that because Sharknado in of itself became a big thing. It became a big old thing, and I think also it's from the Asylum people, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken.
Yes.
Which I don't think any of the Asylum movies have really like risen to they've never quite risen to, besides Sharknado, none of them have really uh, stood out as good B movies,
Right.
or just even stand out B movies. Uh, in the lexicon, like like Trolls 2 or Birdemic. Um, And I think the first one is, it's fine on its own, but I want to say the series after that, then that kind of like, then they started to like, you can tell each one is trying to do just that. They're trying to make the Birdemic or the Trolls 2. They're like, that's the goal now. They want to be the late night movie. They want to be memed. They want to like be the movie everybody like references or like throw
Right.
clips up on YouTube. None of them ever quite do that because it you cannot set out to make a cult classic. That's not how it works. Making a cult classic is well, yeah,
I
it
think it's accidental, to be honest with you,
it has to be. It always has to be accidental. Same thing with
and
a
natural.
B movie. Huh?
It has to be accidental, and I'm sorry, organic, I should say.
Has to be organic. You have to. Good B the the thing about The Room and Trolls 2 and Birdemic. Though Birdemic, I feel maybe a little bit more intentional. It's like this has to have been done by someone with zero talent who wanted to make a film, didn't know a thing about the process, about production, about anything, and then eventually got it done. And it's beautiful to watch when it is so incompetent and
You
goes
gotta
through and
respect it
pushes through.
to a
Uh,
degree.
I I don't I suspect most of the people, which is also why I think Asylum doesn't. None of them have quite risen because they are aware. Obviously they're doing like the knockoff name, which is
Right.
what most people are drawn to. But as far as I know, I cannot remember a single clip or a line or a bit or a meme uh, that's ever gotten like huge traction online.
No, I don't
Any
either.
of the movies, like uh, I'll always go back. The Room, hundreds of thousands. It's everywhere. Thousands of memes, thousands of clips that are always being used. You don't see anything. I don't think anyone. It also like I'm like, does anyone even watch these movies? Because the whole point is, frankly, how many of these people are just simply making their money off of people renting the wrong thing? I feel like that's.
Right.
But yeah, so Sharknado, the first one, has its moments, but it ultimately is it is a fraud of a bad movie. It is a fraud of a fraud. You can't
Interesting.
you can't want to be like the shitty bad movie that everybody makes fun of. You can't. Well, I mean, you can try to want it, but then it loses the flavor. It loses the appeal,
The flavor.
especially because you can tell it with the audience. Though it has gotten, though again, it's very very popular. So I guess fair enough.
Fair
But
enough.
it's not my type of bad movie.
No, me neither. Like
A
mine is
proper
like Iron Sky. I think that's a proper bad, great
that's
movie.
that's a good one. And
Love that
yeah,
film. So this is kind of I would say we're getting here to some of the cream of the crop, some of the more known shark films. And while this is more, I would say, survival slash shark films, the sharks are definitely still the main horror of the movie itself.
uh-huh.
Based on a true story about two scuba divers, husband and wife, who are accidentally left in shark infested waters in the Bahamas,
Uh-huh.
directed by Chris Kittens. Written by Chris Kittens, starred Blanchard Ryan, Daniel Travis, and Saul Stein. Um, so basically, like as I explained, they're lost in the water, adrift, and basically, at first it's the terror of just being alone in open ocean and not knowing what to do or where to go. But then you start getting our good friends. Naturally, I might say too, there is no um, mutations or anything wrong with these sharks. They're just being sharks in this
Yeah.
film. Of course, coming to investigate and then taking a while to eventually start to consume the husband after taking a few bites of him. Open Water, though, I remember when it first came out, got kind of a poor reception. It has a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, but I just remember a lot of people thought it was stupid, and I'm like, this is why do you think it's stupid? This is a true story. Like, how much real do you really need to get? I mean, I just know a lot of people that were disappointed in the film itself. They used real sharks. They used it's all real footage. And I want to just go ahead and get to the score on that. There is, I give it, again, I would actually, if it gets a 5.8 on IMDb, I would actually give it a 6 because it's a true story, original story. There's a lot of other movies that have come after it that are basically kind of the same type of film, such as The Reef. Um, Originality and footage, it's all its own footage. This is all its own thing. There is
Yeah.
no stock footage in this movie. But uh I say the terror is there, but it's a primal terror that they try to convey to the audience. They don't use too much jump scares with the music or too much
Yeah.
footage with the being seen of the sharks from down below. Like literally there's parts where you just see the fin flop in the water and it's like, "Oh
Uh-huh.
shit." The shark is there, and the terror of just the water splashing is
Yeah.
kind of enough there to get you going.
I mean, yeah, just I mean, again, because they're just left out in the middle of the ocean, which is terrifying in and of itself. Um, Also impressive at the time, I believe, because it was like one of the lowest budget films
Right,
that got a wide release. It was like something like $300,000, which, like, as a frame of reference for the audience, like that 300,000 is like a camera crew for like 2 days for
right.
most for even modestly budgeted films. It's like crazy. That's that low. I would say, yeah, I can kind of see why it got like low because it's all built around the small stuff, and I think when this came? Actually, this came out before Paranormal Activity, if I
Right.
remember.
Yes, it
This
did.
was a little bit
2003.
before. I think we were in the ramp up to the found footage genre, even though
Yes.
this isn't really found footage. It's not designed as a found footage, as
No,
it
but it
were.
comes off as that though.
Right, because of how cheap it is, because they
Right.
filmed it on really cheap equipment, and the two actors were complete unknowns. So it's just kind of like right there in the bit. So it is so it's designed around that. So I can see maybe people are get like weird out, and of course, obviously, people probably wanted more shark, even though there's not a lot. But it's kind of built around the terror, but
The primal terror, the
a
primal
project
fear.
about in the ocean. It's like that is something that I mean, it is something that does happen. If I recall, we don't know how obviously because those two
They
people
never
went
found
missing,
them.
never found. We don't know what happened to them. They may
Right.
have been attacked by sharks. They may have unfortunately just like died of exhaustion because they were out in the ocean. Eventually, you can't swim anymore, and
Right.
you just sink.
Doing a lot of these films, doing our shark review here, has made me actually appreciate this film all the more, and that's 1999's Deep Blue Sea. And let me just get let me get on the record here for this. Now, I've always made fun of this film until we've actually started to do all these 100 shark films,
Uh,
because let me explain why. First of all, so when we are scoring these films, we score it in terms of originality. Is the story original? Is it different? Is it not just basically about a small town being harassed by a shark? Is it different? We special effects. Are the special effects legit? Did they use, terrible cheesy computers, or is it puppets, whatever? And then stock footage, because a lot of these films are guilty of using stock footage where it's basically National Geographic footage of a great white shark, and then you just splice in an actor flopping in the water with blood or paint, I should say. Deep Blue Sea is when I was going through all these films, I must say is one of the biggest reliefs in the world, because you have a film that is not about the great white shark. It is about mako sharks, which in my opinion are 10 times cooler, because it is a breath of fresh air, and it already makes it a lot better already.
yeah.
But for those of you who've never seen Deep Blue Sea, it's about a research facility. Well, first of all-star cast. We had Samuel L. Jackson, Thomas Jane. I love Thomas Jane. Sanford Burrows, LL Cool J.
I
My
love
hat's
Cool
like a
J.
shark fin. Michael Rappaport. Oh yeah, Michael Rappaport. Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah, Jacqueline McKenzie. Basically a research facility where they're genetically engineering sharks because they're studying. They're trying to make a cure for Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Uh, Basically, the facility
Okay.
breaks down, and the Makos are trying to get out to the deep blue sea,
You see.
and it's a caper. It's a caper of basically you have characters trying to get out to the top, and sharks are trying to get them. But when you watch this film, after watching a lot of these other ones, you tend to appreciate how much effort went into it. Now, there is, for all its flaws, such as the sharks being able to throw the dude up against the window in water, and the sharks being able to do a lot of unsharky things. I think it's actually one of the better films out there. I really think
Yeah.
it
Uh,
is.
this is actually well, and I mean, and I don't necessarily say it's like wholly bad, but when I talk about like the makings of a cult film, like this is like an example of like
Hmm.
this is a film that has the moments. Like this is, I would say, Samuel Jackson's monologue followed by the shark is one of the it was one of those famous scenes I think
Right.
in in action movie history. Like just the way it happens too is hilarious. Generally, I always think like self awareness is bad for making a cult film, but like this has it is aware. Um, and this just could be me just being like 34 right now and just assuming everything that was what I liked as a kid is better, but there's just a quality to 90s films, certain 90s films that I think are lacking in today. Just like there's no snarkiness, there's no like the attempt at irony or over self-awareness that tries to like poke fun at how weird and strange this is. There's just an earnestness. It is just openly ridiculous. It does not stop to ponder why it's ridiculous. We do not
Right.
have to we do not question why, in order to create a cure for Alzheimer's, we had to make mako sharks giant and double
Bigger,
barrel.
smarter, faster.
There's absolutely a
Basically, they
for
had to make
this.
the Steve Austin of fucking
Exactly.
sharks.
Why you would give sharks steroids in order to cure Alzheimer's doesn't matter. What's important is that the sharks are huge and killer.
Exactly.
There's LO Cool J in there. Pressing hard to get a film career. It eventually worked out. I think he got
He's
one
on
of
the
the.
soundtrack.
He's on the
He's on the
soundtrack. That's
soundtrack.
that's what you
Yeah.
do. That's how you get more. I think that'll be the world's the '90s biggest missed opportunity, because there were some, but not always. It's like we did not get more rappers in movies in the '90s. We
Right.
had to wait to the 2000s. If
No,
like
that's a good point. Actually, that's a very, very, very good point.
you should have had. Yeah, we should. We could, because I know Tupac did a cameo in one movie very early on, but it's like, man,
Yes.
well, yeah, if
Poetic
only we could have
justice.
gotten,
Above
if
the
only we
rim.
could have gotten Tupac in like a leading role in an action film. The
Or
shit
like
would.
Space Jam or something.
Or Tupac in Space Jam. Yeah. Oh shit,
Okay.
Tupac.
But I also want to mention too, and I don't think many people mention this, and I think this is a huge, huge, huge dynamic of Deep Blue Sea, and why you say there is this production towards it, this quality towards it. I think this was a huge, and I go to this because I'm gonna get to making my next point with it. This was Warner Brothers trying to steal the best shark movie from, I think, 20th Century or 20th Century Fox, because they had Jaws. Warner Bros didn't really have a kind of shark movie of their own. This movie, they put a lot into it. I think it was successful. This is Warner Brothers shark movie, and even the music next to Jaws, I will say, is iconic, because Deep Blue Sea has that doom 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 doom. While not as iconic as Jaws, it's still a fucking scary theme to think about when you're in the water, because it's terrifying. It's just as much. And you could make the argument too. Hey, Rob, it's actually inspired by Jaws. It's kind of the same kind of beat. Dun 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 doo. But still, I think that Warner Brothers really did try to capture their own shark movie with Deep Blue Sea when they actually made it. But I think you're 100% right. I think you make a ton of great points on it. I think it's one of those films that has no apologies for it. It shouldn't apologize for what it is, and it's a natural cult classic, as you said. I think it's one that's going to be around forever, and it's going to be one of the top 5 movies on this list,
Oh
because
yeah.
they even used real animatronic sharks in it. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's a great film.
Yeah, it's built off of really good, ridiculous, but still great things to look with with the shark. So yeah, I would say it's ridiculous. But it's certainly one of the few, when you think of this list, people were like, let's talk about shark movies. The first movie everybody will always think about Jaws. I
Jaws.
would say, depending on how old you are, you're either going to think, of course, either The Meg or Deep Blue Sea or Sharknado, I guess. So those three right now. But yeah.
One of the greatest shark movies ever made. I mean, we make fun of it, but it's great.
Right.
Great actors, like you said, great premise. It gives
My
us,
head is like a Sharks fan.
dude. Come on, bro. Like, and you know what's interesting? It breaks the stereotypes because two dudes survive in a semi horror film, rather than like a chick or
and a
something.
black guy.
White guy and a black guy survive, and
Two
head is like a shark's fin. And not only that, but like you said, Rob, like as funny as we've made fun of this movie so many times, Rob, the premise is original. They actually give
Right.
you a reason why the sharks are like smart, you know what I mean? And they're developing and stuff like that. Stupid at the time, really dumb, but it gave us so many great memories. The Samuel Jackson jump scare where they're just like, oh, you think
Yeah.
he's gonna last to the end of this film? He's dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that one chick who like slices her hand and it's like
And the
jelly.
shark's like, Mama?
Yeah. Just rip her in half.
Right.
Yeah. You ate my bird. There's so many like one-liners in that film that are great. So yeah, I'd give that movie like an 8.5 now.
Dave, what do you think of Deep Blue Sea now?
Oh, Deep Blue Sea is one of those movies to where it's a shameless watch. If it comes on and you actually have cable to this day, and more I like, first of all, more power to you. You're a fucking you're a renaissance man. Second of all, if you can enjoy the fucking premise of the movie, or it really shows us, like, I'm gonna just go there. It shows us what the government was really fucking thinking back in the day. Like, look, this is what we're into. This is what we were doing. Like, think about it. Every scientific movie that comes out. I mean, seriously though, think about it. Every scientific movie that comes out, yes, it's an idea. Yes, somebody had to come up with it. But if they came up with it, don't you think that the government has done its own fucking research on these animals?
Oh yeah, they have.
Like,
Yeah.
it has,
Shark Fighters
like
was
if it
about
was too, like it has to be somewhat like I will say that the research has to be somewhat close, or that the information has to be somewhat close to each other, because if in not exactly, because of course if it's too close, the government's gonna fucking flag it. They're not gonna let it go. They're gonna be like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Don't fuck with it. So it had to be just enough to where it was real but fake. Like, yeah, this is some
You
bullshit. Who
think
would
Deep
do
Blue
this?
Sea is a conspiracy movie?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I
Okay,
love that
okay.
actually, Dave. I actually love that
I love that
theory.
take. I love the
Yeah.
take. Yes. I ain't gonna
Like,
argue at all. I ain't gonna push back at it
I do.
because it's original. It's original.
It's original.
It has good special effects, and there's no stock footage in
There's no
Dave's argument.
So
Okay.
someone was looking at that shit and was like, this is what we're putting out, and this is gonna be the greatest shit, and no one's gonna understand it. No one's gonna fucking get it.
I love it, Dave. I love this.
Like,
Okay.
I really want to see how
We're
many of my
Dave is
viewers.
onto some stuff though. I mean, you
I
got to
know.
think about it.
He's gonna get us in
Who's talking
trouble.
about
They're gonna come and take him
sharks?
away.
Sharks. They're gonna be like,
away.
did they just say something about the close the facility?
Close it down. Our
Shut it
computers are gonna
down. Shut it down. Think about it.
Destroying around.
It would be
right
in the
now.
driest place in the
You
world,
are
so it's in Arizona. It's out here.
Fuck out,
It's out
Dave.
here,
They're like,
bro.
he knows. He fucking knows. Shut it down.
The fucking facility is out here, bro. It's in the driest place in the world. It's either in Antarctica or out here. They're out there with the cold, and they're keeping these fuckers frozen, or it's hot, and they're keeping these motherfuckers dehydrated.
This one, I was impressed. I was
Really?
impressed, and I was impressed, and yet I wasn't. I'm gonna give an honest, good here review, and not like your movie guru here doesn't give you good, honest reviews. But the point of the matter is, I'm really gonna kind of break this one down a little bit more than we do the other shark films. This one was good though. First of all, the special effects. I'm gonna go right off and say probably about a good 8. Like the special effects are good, not necessarily the sharks, but you can tell like it's good. It's good. Blue screen, CGI, everything they use in there, it's pretty good. It's a pretty film. It's very good eye candy, if you know what I mean. And I know some of you critics out there are gonna know what I'm talking about. It's nice to look at. It's just a pretty movie. Um, I really did enjoy, I guess you could say, the aspect of it, even though I did not find anything, because I've also heard this is based off a true story. I really couldn't find too much on it, but
I couldn't
anyway.
either.
Yeah, so I'm not even going to go into that, but I thought the aspect of it was interesting, like the whole idea of falling down, being in the cage surrounded by great whites was of course cool, and the thing breaking. But here's where I started to have problems with the film, and this is nitpicking my audience, and we all do this in horror films, but I just can't help myself. First of all, why would you get on any kind of boat with these losers that clearly are like amateur shark cage enthusiasts here, and with a rusty like crane, like a rusty winch on there to basically harness this, and even the
Harness
cage,
this thing,
even
yeah.
the cage was rusty, Steve.
Was
Like
it rusty because like it was in the water, it looked red, right? It was like
rusty. The whole thing. I mean, when I first started watching it, I was like, oh man, that thing's gonna fall apart the minute it hits the water. So Oh, so I thought that was good. So that I mean, I thought that was ridiculous. So there's some other parts I think are absolutely ridiculous. And again, you mentioned this in one of our other shark films, Steve, is that this vendetta against the sharks that have these vendettas. This was another one where I was like, oh my god, okay, the great whites would not stick around that long, and with
Yup.
these people in this cage, they would eventually been like, fuck that.
Yeah, they leave. They're just like, okay, well that's got away, or I'm not gonna spend my time on it. Sharks are
Right.
like, no, I'm gonna kill this specific human.
Right. And this was one of those movies because don't get me wrong, and I like the aspect too, and they again, our audience, it's not like they did anything new. They hid the sharks, of course,
Mhm.
because they're in the dark and the deep and the ocean, which again
It
also
worked though.
it does work, but it's also problematic, I thought, for the characters because one, she has to keep going up and down to get communication, which I thought was really stupid.
Right. Yeah.
But not to mention, like the guys rescuing them were really dumb. Like I love like when we're almost like a quarter of the way through the film, and they're like, "Oh, we called the Coast Guard," and that was after the second time, and I'm like, "Why didn't you do that? Like to begin with,
I
idiot!" Like,
Dude, I know, man. I was when I was watching this, I did think that like maybe I was chalking it up to because I was into it a little bit. I was like, maybe he's
yeah,
just
no,
scared, dude, and he didn't think of it at first or whatever. Because when the shark attack happens, you're not like some people are gonna be like, oh my god, shark attack, and the others are
the
like,
shark attacks in this one were pretty jump scare. Like even I was like,
yeah,
"Oh shit!" And some of them, like especially because the two main characters, which is Mandy Moore and Claire Holt, they had a good performance. I thought they did a stellar job. Um, spoilers our audience, sorry, but I did not expect there to be. This is the one part of the film I didn't really care for, and I thought it was interesting, but then again, I was just also like, I knew it because they kept talking about beds and they kept talking, and then all of a sudden he's like, I don't want to give you another tank because you're gonna basically get drunk off oxygen. The CO2 poisoning. I'm sorry if you know what it's called out there. Please comment below. I don't know exactly what it's called, but basically she starts getting drunk off the oxygen, and then she
mhm.
dreams they escape basically out of
Yeah, she
there,
gets out of the cage and she
but
she
then
goes
she's
over.
just down there laughing. I thought that part was unnecessary. I mean, it was
I get
already,
why they did it though.
yeah. I mean, it was, but it was so, God, it was so almost Jacob's ladder, like they're already dying.
Yeah,
So
and you're
it
in
just felt
water, Rob, though.
Yeah, and it felt like a movie that had way too many endings as well. But overall, I thought this one was one of the better ones. So I'm gonna give it actually overall. I'm actually gonna give 47 meters down a 7. I think it's worth watching as a shark film. I'm gonna give it a 7. Like I said, I give the special effects an 8. Stock footage, no stock footage. This is all original stuff, so it gets a plus 10 on that. So overall, 47 meters down. I hate to say this, I think it's one of the better films. Now the sequel is ridiculous, but this one,
Hmm.
it was good. I was surprised, and this is another one again here, just like Dark Tide, where I think I was sick of shark films during 2017, Steve. So I never really kind of sat down and watched this one and like literally took it in because I was like, I heard this movie is terrible, and don't ever do this, our audience, because you should never do this. Some of us movie critics are guilty of this, and don't let any of them tell you they're not. I
Yes.
just heard a lot that this movie was just god awful, and I was like, I don't really want to see it. But I watched it, and I was like, pretty
Yeah.
good.
For a
Just-
shark film, it's pretty. It's decent. I feel like it's got a lot of originality to it for a shark
right?
film. Some tropey stuff, like as Rob has
Yeah.
said, and I agree, dude. I give it a 7 as well. Definitely better than its sequel. Has bigger budget, and yeah, dude. I don't know. I just felt like when I was watching it, I was invested into seeing these girls get out of it
Right.
because it does suck, dude. It's like a shark attack, and you're like below the surface too. So it's double. You're fighting the water and the shark at the same time.
It's like if they mixed the movie, the Darkness Falls with Jaws.
Yeah, dude. Why didn't she do that like sweet flip that one dude didn't? What was it? Deep Blue Sea. Remember he avoided the
Yeah,
shark
yeah.
attack.
That's so great that you said they need to do that more. When the shark's coming at you, basically the technique is to pretend like you don't know the shark is there, and then when it comes in, you do this flip, and then you grab it by the dorsal fin, and you ride it. I know, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're
We're
talking
always going to
about.
go back to that film, by the way. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
just
know.
can't.
Deep Blue Sea is incredible. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because when you type in shark film, this movie pops up. And while there is plenty of movies that depict what happened on the USS Indianapolis, for some reason this one seems to be the most famous now, and it gets a 2.5 stars, Steve. And I wouldn't even give it that.
Wow.
I mean, have you seen USS Indianapolis? It's starring
Uh,
Nick Cage.
I saw a little bit of it. I'll say I've seen bits and pieces. I haven't
So
seen all of
director Mario Van Peebles had a budget of 40 million, box office 1.664 billion.
it. Oh
So
my
hey,
goodness, dude.
hey, did well. But here's the problem I have in this movie, and again, it's a historical one. If you're gonna depict a movie about one of the greatest tragedies, in naval history or just on the face of the earth, especially shark attack wise, don't lie about it, because this movie really, I mean, I've read the book about the Indianapolis too. While there is shark attacks, and yes, that is the most focused part about the story, some guys didn't even see sharks. Some guys didn't even most of them died from their wounds from the ships, and actually the sharks were eating their bodies. This movie makes it seem again like they're goddamn Mako sharks, because it looks like they took the Mako sharks from Deep Blue Sea in this one, Steve, and they just basically had them swim around. Then they made CGI sharks that literally leapt out of the water and got guys off the rafts. I didn't hear about any of that in any of the events that took place
That is
in the account.
what are you?
And this movie, I wouldn't say it's so bad, because it is based off a true event, but it's one of those things of where it's like, just tell the actual story, because it's just as interesting. Don't put so much emphasis on the most horrific parts. I mean, yes, that did happen, but not everyone was eaten by sharks. They made it seem like the whole fucking, like, everybody was eaten by sharks, and these sharks were like almost borderline Sharknado sharks. They were leaping out of the water almost and doing 360s and getting these people. I mean, they
Oh
were
my
like
goodness.
borderline clever.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Rob. It's like we've said it. It's like, why do they do these in these schlocky shark films? They always make the sharks super smart, which they're intelligent things,
Creatures, yeah.
creatures, but they're not like they're jumping out of the water to get something out of a boat. Like they're doing stuff like that.
And yeah, hey, we know it has happened before, but if you don't believe us, watch this movie, and you're gonna be like, oh, I mean, these sharks are literally like doing gymnastics to get some of
Yeah.
these people, and I'm like, it's and again, it gets so much play because it's Nick Cage, and while he didn't, he did Nick Cage. He was Nick Cage in this film, and it was fine. I don't really knock it because of Nick Cage in it. I mostly knock this movie because one, I thought the special effects were kind of bad. So I'm actually going to give this movie on the special effects a 5, because while the CGI was bad, they did have the sharks from Deep Blue Sea in it. And I'm not joking. They really had the Makos in there swimming around. And
Jesus.
and those are real animatronic sharks that really can swim and everything. And it looked pretty cool. So when you steal the props, when you rob the props from another movie, hey, special things can happen. So I thought the special effects on that, like I said, I deserve a 5. Stock footage, they didn't use stock footage, so there's no stock footage in this one. So unfortunately, I'll give it a +5, because maybe it should have used some stock footage.
It
'Cause
should have used it to
yeah, it should
enhance
have
the
used
film.
some, because some of these, like I said, some of the shark attacks are just a little bit redonkulous, and we ain't even on land, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
So, yeah, like overall though, I would give USS Indianapolis probably just straight a 2, like 2 out of 10. I mean, I didn't. There's better movies that depict this event. Hell, there's National Geographic historical documents documentaries that depict this better.
Yeah, dude.
So
Just I don't know, man.
that's how
It's
I feel about
just
that one.
yeah. You know, for my pick, man, I kind of went a little more. I wanted to see some like more dramatic changes in shark films. So I saw 2020's From the Depths. Uh,
Ooh, I want to hear this one.
this one, dude, was okay. So the thing about it is, it's all CGI sharks, but it's sort of like a 47 meters down situation. We have this woman. She is sort of like going to therapy about her fear of sharks, and she's like scared of sharks. You don't know why. Then you figure out that her sister and her friend got eaten by sharks, like on this like trip with that she was on, and she was the only survivor. And she feels guilty for their deaths from the shark, right? So she like
Right.
like yeah, like so everything freaks her out. If she sees a puddle on the ground, she kind of envisions a shark coming out of it. If she's in a pool, she like you get it, right? There's
Right,
sharks
yeah.
coming out of it, right? So she's kind of dealing with that. She has this um, girlfriend who is like trying to like snap her out of it, be like, look, it's not your fault, blah blah blah. But then it kind of takes a little bit of a turn, Rob, where she starts seeing visions of her sister and her friend. And the thing about this dude
What?
is so stupid because they go the jokey route, bro. It's like what's that one movie? I you remember that movie Idle Hands with
Yeah.
Seth Green in it and stuff.
Yeah.
You know how like Seth Green's dead, but he's jokey
Right.
type of
Yes.
thing, dude. They do that type of thing with her sister in this film. That's sort of serious, sort of not. It's kind of not good, dude. But then it's also kind of interesting because I'll just tell you the end, dude. The end happens where she did not survive that shark attack. She's actually on the operating table in a coma,
Wow.
dreaming about this whole thing. And then in the film, she's just like, well, I succumbed through the shark, and she gets eaten by the shark, and they're like, oh, we lost her. So she didn't.
That's interesting. Okay,
It's
so
interesting.
on
Yeah,
original story, what would you give it?
I'd give it a 7 for originality for shark films. It's like
Okay.
47 meters down situation, Rob, where you're just like, they went with that ending. I knew they had to do it, so I'm not knocking them, but the originality, dude, where she's seeing these sharks everywhere. There was a sixth scene where she's dreaming and she's just out in the middle of nowhere by herself, and then it's got the megalodon image,
Oh,
like it's coming up.
jeez.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's pretty cool. I'm trying to give it some points, but dude, CGI, dude, shark. It was bad, Rob.
Bad.
It was like
Overall, would you give
Jaws
it?
the Revenge bad. It was like
Ooh.
2.
Ooh. Okay. What about stock footage?
No stock footage here, just all CGI, and basically you don't really. There's no shark attacks in the film. It's all just, it's in her head, dude. It's in her mind.
Interesting. All right, so if you couldn't make sharks more scarier than in your own house, I'm gonna be talking about a movie I happen to, I'll just say I breezed through,
Oh no!
which is House Shark 27.
Oh no!
This is the again another notorious puppet shark sharksploitation film, but
Yes,
I gotta say I'm gonna automatically give this one a rating of 4 on original story because it was pretty fucking hilarious. So
better than the
basically,
other ones.
this shark is basically eating people's butts.
Yeah, pretty
Like
much.
basically, did you catch this one?
I did see this one. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, it's kind of funny, but in a way, this film captures everything you're supposed to do. It has, nude women. It has buckets of blood. It has, a it has, a stupid looking shark. But hey, in a way, it worked. It kept me entertained for maybe 15, 20 minutes, I think, as I was watching it. Um, like I said, originality, I'm gonna give it a 4. Special effect wise, I'm gonna actually give it a 2. And stock footage, I'm gonna actually again gonna say no stock footage because it was all original. But maybe it needed some stock footage. So
Yeah,
maybe
dude.
+5, maybe.
Yeah, maybe plus 10, dude. That's like, man, anything but that puppet we just saw. Or I don't
Right.
even know what it was, dude. It looked like a blow up doll at some points. It was crazy.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's
Dude, what
gonna
do you think about the
be Shark.
reformed Slim Jim guy looking dude in the movie. The guy with the beard. Do you remember that
know.
guy?
Yes, I know. I thought he was a Slim Jim
Yeah,
guy
I was
too.
thinking the Slim
You're
Jim
talking about
guy,
the guy
dude.
who came on after Macho Man, right?
Yeah.
And then he just
Yeah.
grew a fucking beard. That's what. Yeah, that's what he looks like. Eat me. I remember him. Yeah. Oh shit, that's great. That's gonna be House Shark 2017.
I continuing with my trend of shark movies. I went with more of the known current shark movies, and 47 Meters Down,
Oh yes,
Uncaged, the sequel.
Descent meets fucking Jaws.
Yeah, for no apparent reason, right? So it's like these four girls. I think they skip school and then they want to go cave diving for some reason because one of their like fathers is a cave diver. They go down in this cave. They're looking at like the wonders of below, but then they see one of them notices something's in the water and it's a shark, right? So they're
Why?
trying to, yeah. Why is there a shark there? It gets even crazier. So there's more than one shark. They're trying to get out and they don't know how to get back because they kind of lost their rope to get back to the surface. So it's really just a survival movie plus trying to escape type of thing and hiding from the sharks underwater. Oh, by the way, these sharks are blind because they
They're
were like,
blind, right?
yeah, they're
Eh,
like, yeah, the shark's been
But
here for so long, they've adapted.
they're like they don't look like what is we, of course we're nerds on this podcast and we do know because our podcast is named after a shark, so we do know a little things. We only Greenland and sleeper sharks are basically blind, basically the same shark.
Yeah,
Well, because of the parasites on their eyes, but there
right.
is no such thing as a blind shark.
There's
That's
no
never
such thing
existed.
and just like Rob has said, audience, that these films widely are making enemies out of the great white. Even if Rob
Right.
has said that they're not technically a great white shark, they're just like, that's a great white shark. It's like, but it's not, though. It's another shark, right? Tiger shark or whatever. But they just make it however it is. And somehow these sharks are evolving like Deep Blue Sea, movie that you guys have talked about. This is one of those films, Rob, where it's kind of funny, but it's not because it takes itself too seriously to be
Right.
funny.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like Descent. I mean, I did actually get a chance to catch this one. It reminds me a lot of Descent meets like Jaws almost. It really is. It's like
Yeah,
again,
and it
it's a
is.
it's a situation of you have people that go someplace. They don't tell anyone else where they're going. They don't bring cell phones. They don't they don't come prepared. They don't come armed.
Right.
It's like you're
They
asking.
don't tell anybody.
You're going to a cave that's hardly explored. It's like, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. You don't feel any sympathy when you see these girls get ripped to shreds because, like, what were you doing down there? Just like Rob said, you have no business down there. You're not cave divers. Why are you down there?
Okay, hit it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, hold on, Steve. So, what would you give 47 meters down in originality?
Originality, I would give it a 6 because it is interesting. It is Descent meets sharks or whatever, Jaws, but I didn't hate it. It was just the other aspect, which was the effects. I'm gonna give that a 3. The
Okay.
effects really were like there was no shark in the film. You get to see that somebody was down there, and they're like, "Oh, pretend like something's there. It's grabbing you. Pretend." So yeah, it wasn't that great.
Gotcha. Okay. And no stock footage, right? All original footage.
All of their
Sadly,
original film.
you're
Yeah,
like this movie could use some stock
they
footage.
needed
Okay.
some stock footage, Rob.
Good one here.
Honestly, I went straight into all the Black Shark movies, and the first one I picked was Shark's Tale because of my man Will Smith and his controversy right now.
Okay. First of all, I'm
Okay.
really happy you brought this up because I have a controversial take on this film. But please hit us with Shark's Tale because I'm happy with this 2004 Shark's Tale.
Now, I love this movie. I loved it when
Too.
it first came out. I loved it when I loved it 5 years after it. I loved it 20 years after it came out. My whole point is with the movie, I think Will Smith did an amazing job as a fucking as a what you call it, animated character. Yes, I feel like his voiceover was just right. I feel like The fact that he had Angelina Jolie as a co-star, it was like, what? Or was that Angelina Jolie as as the
It was
angelfish?
Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, there we go.
And
There we go. I
No,
knew it was.
Angelina Jolie was also in it.
Right.
Yeah, she was the other fish.
Yeah, the antagonist. I think she was trying to get him to. Anyway, whatever. The whole point is the whole point is the dynamic of how the dynamic between the shark and the fish. It wasn't well, to my knowledge, it wasn't done
Which is
before.
played by Jack Black, who
Yeah,
did a good
Yes,
job in this as well.
he did a good job. Yeah,
Jack Black embodies every character and slays every movie. That's a fact. That is a fact because he's going to give you the Jack Nicholson of funny.
Interesting. Okay.
Like he's gonna take to me, he's gonna take the role that deep. Like honestly, if you run into Shallow Hal, we're gonna run it back to Shallow Hal. Same thing. He
Just
gave
recently
you
watched that movie. Good movie.
saying he gave you exactly what you were looking for with that movie.
yeah. I see what you mean about Jack Black. Yeah, he does take every role.
And for those
And
who've
just
never seen Shark Tale, who are basically living under a rock, Shark Tale is basically about a shark who doesn't want to be a shark and basically goes against the grain, ends up hiding, accidentally killing his brother. But it's the sharks are like like the mafia in this movie as
Yeah,
well, and they're led by my favorite actor of all time, being Robert De Niro. But
exactly.
basically, he just has to be himself. The cliche line in all kind of kids movies, and it comes off good. I love Shark Tale, but
Shout
I
out
didn't
to Robert
I
De
didn't mean to
Niro's wife.
interrupt you, Dave. Continue.
Shout out to Robert De Niro's wife for making him do that movie. Definitely. Because behind every strong white actor is a strong black woman.
Okay, so I have a really, really interesting take on Shark Tale.
Come on,
And
let's go.
it's interesting because I it didn't really occur to me until maybe a few years ago when I actually started watching this movie. I have to say, Shark Tale, for being as a kids film as it is one of almost, and it's gonna sound funny to you, Dave, is one of the most gangsterous films I've ever seen. And by
I
that,
agree.
if you truly strip away like some of the kid aspect of this movie, it's a straight up gangster film almost. It's about a guy who's trying to duck and dodge these freaking loan sharks and all these people. It's almost like Uncut Gems in a way. He's
with
Yes.
fish though.
yes. And you know what's crazy is I always thought, and for as funny of a scene as it is, to me it is borderline almost Silence of the Lambs ish, and that's how powerful I say it is when they have him tied up. First when he meets the two fish and he's sitting there and he goes, oh hey guys, what's up, every little thing gonna be and they're like, that's not how you sing that song, Oscar. And then they have him tied up and they're basically, they don't have guns, but they're gonna kill him, and they're out there going, "Every little thing is gonna." And they're like, "That's how you sing this song, Oscar." And
Yeah,
it comes off so like, "Holy shit, this is
The,
dark."
yeah.
the fact that they tied in the Jamaican Haitian mafia to the Italian mafia was a touch for me. It was like, oh, they're really going into detail with this movie.
Right? It's
Yeah.
like underneath the kid tone, there is actually a gangster film here,
I
and
mean,
that's
well,
why
it
I
involves
love
real
Shark Tale.
gangsters. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Like De Niro's in it, bro. It had to be. And I really feel like, honestly, if they would have threw it into where it was a real movie, to where it was live action,
Would've been
they could
pretty good.
still do that. They could
It
use
would
the
be
same
pretty good.
premise,
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
name, and everything, and just release it, and it'd be
Because
the
that's
same.
what Steve has heard me talk about this off air. I've always said, I always think it's really scary when the character's about to kill somebody and they start playing like a really funny song or something. And I always thought that would
Like,
scare the
what the
shit out of me if some guys were starting to say every little thing is gonna be all right. They're getting ready to fucking cap your ass.
Yeah.
It's like holy shit.
Why are you so
And
happy
that
in this moment right now?
right. That's why I think I'm so happy you brought Shark Tale into this one, Dave. That was a good one.
That was a good shark movie.
So, all right, now I'm gonna have to hit you guys back with a even better movie.
You even saw this one, but there is another movie that's sort of within the same vein of the shark movies, and that's
Sharkweek.
Ouija Shark. Did you see that one?
No, I saw the cover of it. Ouija Shark.
Ouija Shark. Okay, so
Please tell me it's Paranormal Activity 1 meets Sharks.
all right, Rob. So it's basically like these girls. They do this thing. They're like, oh, we think it's cool to kind of mess with a Ouija board, right? Ha ha ha. And then they summon a shark on accident, and then the bad CGI shark goes out and does exactly what you think it does. It's basically somebody was like, we need a shark, but we don't even have a hand puppet to go buy. And some guy with like Microsoft Word and a stolen video production thing they got online was like, I'll make a shark, and then just totally green screened in a shark. And so when it's going to kill people, it doesn't actually do anything. So the people just lay down, and there's just buckets of blood just being kind of like squirted on them by a production team. The director's doing some ketchup on them. This is horrible. This is horrible. Shark Exorcist was way. It was way better than this.
Oh man, that's bad. That's bad. Okay, so what would you give in the terms of originality?
Again, originality, I'd give it probably a 6 because I've never seen anything quite like this before. You know what I mean? A shark that's sort of like a ghost. It could be cool. The execution is bad. And then if you're going to give it a 10, I'll go a 9
It really
for
sounds
stock
like
footage because it's just green screen effects for the shark and people going like, oh, what? Am I supposed to scream now? Oh, okay. Ah!
And those Ouija sharks. Okay.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Dave?
it sounds like a very great premise of a movie. It just feels like they need. It sounds like
They needed a budget.
like boom, like the 13, like we were talking about 13 Ghosts of Sharks. That would be a fucking amazing movie. Think about it. Every way, every like, okay, say what was it? Moby Dick. Say Moby Dick is a great white shark
Right.
instead of a great white whale. He died by Captain Ahab, so boom, that's one of the sharks. All you're doing is grabbing sharks from out of the mythological stories and putting them in one big ass ship.
Or in your last review, you were like, fuck it, let's just go ahead and start making the sharks walk on the ground. Well,
Yes.
I have a film for you called Jaws of the Shark 2012.
Okay.
This was directed by Gustav Lugendale, written by Jasper Delison, starred Johan Elian, Christopher Berglund, and Jasper Delison. I'm not even going to continue with that. But, man, let me tell you something about this film. I give this one a 0 all across the board. This was one of the worst ones because, again, it looks like it was uh it looks like, again, it was made from a fucking camcorder, but not just that, dude. The acting is so atrocious. They don't even have a shark puppet. It's like a basic what looks like it looks like you can see the styrofoam in the mouth of the shark. It basically looks like a guy who's dressed up as a styrofoam shark and basically going around killing people. So basically Jason meets guy in shark costume or styrofoam head shark going around killing people. It was one of the worst things I've ever watched. I actually wish I could, call the director and be like, "Can I have my time back?"
Oh, jeez.
That was This is another example. This one's called Shark Huntress 2021. This film looks like it should be good. Actually, from the trailer, it looks like it should be sexy. It looks like it, be interesting. You look like you have a chick that's going to be badass hunting a shark. Moby Dick style, Dave. Bam. But, what you have basically here is a movie about two different stories. A chick who basically is vengeful of a shark for what it did, and these special effects are horrible, by the way, before I even get into it, because you don't see the shark at all. Bad acting too, some of the most atrocious acting I've ever seen. Entitlement bad acting. But basically you have a movie that nothing happens, and at the very end the shark that the girl's hunting the whole time ends up doing her a favor and killing the very plastic CEO that is trying to basically buy the bay from her because she has the ownership of a bay here because she's hunting a shark that is trying to she's trying to get revenge on for doing some wrong to her, Steve. And let me just tell you, it's a terrible movie. I mean, it's not even sexy. It gets a 1.6 out of 10 on IMDb.
Man,
However,
who's the
though,
person who gave it the 1.6?
it's probably me. This is directed by John Riggins, writers Dustin Alexander III. It starred Katrina Gray, Dean Alexandro, and John Flano. And I'm not trying to be like sexist, but this movie literally gave you nothing. Like, and I'm not saying it was just because there was a chick, and I mean, there wasn't even in some of these movies. I'm not gonna lie, some of them people watching for the chicks in the bikinis. There wasn't really even that in this film. You know what I mean? There wasn't even the eye candy for anybody to really
So it's
watch.
not giving you anything on any.
Not giving you anything.
Not giving you
And bas-
shark. You're not giving you the anticipation.
Right. It just was a overall boring film. But I give it a 6 in special effects because like they actually had some decent special effects. Um, Stock footage -1 because it barely had any. Originality, I'm gonna give it a -2 because it's not an original concept. It was exactly like Moby Dick. A person, going out for revenge. I mean, even if they could at least follow the Moby Dick storyline or the book, it would have been better. But this film absolutely gave you nothing, and that's why I'm going to actually give it an overall, pretty much like I said, I'm going to give it probably a 2. Shark Huntress 2021.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is called Cruel Jaws, or it's also known as The Beast. It's a 1995 direct-to-video Italian horror thriller. I am not joking, guys. This is the one of the most interesting films I've ever seen. It's directed by Bruno Mattei. I'm not even going to get too much into like the details of it. It starred David Luther, George Barnes Jr., Scott Silver, but it doesn't matter because I'm surprised this film isn't illegal. This movie, guys, is a direct ripoff of Jaws. It has no relation to Jaws, even though it's called Cruel Jaws. It was filmed in Florida, but again, it was marketed to Italian audiences. But if you watch the premise of this movie, it literally is about okay, so first it starts out with a military ship that crashes, and these 3 guys go down there, and basically they're eaten by a fucking shark. And then all of a sudden, like, there's a mayor who's like, hey, we don't want to stop the town from having the tourist peak here with all the tourist attractions we have and all the summer fun. Then you also have a shark biologist who they bring in, who is basically Brody in this sense. He's basically his character. So there's even a scene, Steve, where they go down and find the body on the beach, and you know what they say? He goes, "Oh, I think she was hit by a propeller," just like in Jaws.
Oh my God! They say that?
It's exactly like Jaws. Like this movie is almost like a Jaws rip to a T. Like to the point of where I'm like, I can't believe they were never sued for this film. Like it is took some of the scenes from the Jaws movies and it input it in this movie. Yeah.
I hate to say this, dude, but the Italian movie production market is kind of known for doing exploitation films like that.
That's crazy, Steve, because again, we're gonna pop it right here. Cannibal Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
That was a exploitation film. Almost a snuff exploitation film.
Yeah, man.
So, but Cruel Jaws. So overall, I'm gonna give this movie a 1. I'm gonna give the special effects of it. I'm gonna give it a 1. And I'm gonna give the stock footage a -10. So this movie basically has a score. I don't think we've ever had one on this one. A score of 0. And I don't think we've ever had a movie like that. But the reason I give it that is because it is an exact rebuff of Jaws. Like, type in "Cruel Jaws" on your guys' computers right now and look at the cover. They even stole the cover.
The movie.
They stole the cover of Jaws.
Just out of the water. It's just the Jaws cover, but like if he
out of the water.
If he broke the water.
Right.
Oh. Oh,
starring Blake Lively, Oscar Honda, Sedona Ledge, Diego Espea, and Ava Dean. It was directed by John Colette Sahara, and of course, it had a budget of 17 million. The cinematography was Flavio Martinez Lambanio. Um, the Shallows, for anyone who hasn't seen it, basically a girl who's on vacation in Mexico, and she's basically trying to get away from it all. She's looking for a beach that her mother used to take her to. It's a secret, secluded beach that no one really knows about. Premise of the movie here. That hardly anyone can find, and she unknowingly goes surfing out in the waves when there is a dead whale not too far off the shore, and she runs into, of course, our good friend Bruce, a great white shark, who basically stalks her and tries to eat her for a few days. Um, One of the more interesting survival shark films. One of the more dumbest ways a shark has died
yeah.
in this film. So even though I do give this film a lot of credit, I also think the way the shark dies is absolutely stupid. Basically, if like a fish doesn't know when to stop if it's swimming downward,
Yep.
like a shark, like an animal,
Just so determined.
it's so determined its whole life swimming. It's like it doesn't know when to stop. So The Shallows, again, good film. I think it's a decent film. I'm actually going to give this one, special effect wise, all original. So again, they're good special effects. So I give the special effects of this movie an 8. I thought they were really good. Story wise, hell, I mean, it's kind of
What
it's been
story?
done before. It's an okay story. Story, I'd say a 6. Decent story. Um, Stock footage, no stock footage. So +5 on that one. So overall, I give The Shallows a decent 7 for a shark film. Honestly, I don't think it's a terrible film to see. I don't think I think it's a decent film to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think for if you're watching shark marathons like us, definitely put this in your repertoire as one of them as like a palate cleanser if you're watching some terrible ones.
Right.
Because you know what's interesting about this one, Rob? I'm not really high on this. I did see this one in the theaters too, and I didn't like it, but I did like the premise because she encounters the shark and she gets like injured by the shark. She almost gets
Right.
killed like right out of the gate. So I like that. Like you get hurt. There's more danger rather than just going like, okay, I need to avoid this shark. It's like, well, I've been injured, so it might bleed to death. You know what I mean? She's on that rock for so long, and she's like super close to the shore, which is such like a teaser. It's like she's tempted to just go like, screw it, can I just outrun this shark? And then the shark is like, well, go ahead, try it. Like if you try to get into this water, I'm going to kill you. Right. So it's a great thing. It is kind of stupid again because it's like, why is the shark would have just gave up and like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, the shark would have gave up. More importantly, though, why would you go surfing in an area where there's a decaying whale carcass that's just asking to have an encounter with the shark?
That she didn't see. Even the guy in the beginning was just like, you're going on this secluded island. I think he tried to warn her, right? He goes like, yeah, don't go there.
Again, and no one gets enough credit more than that fucking seagull needs to get more credit, man. That was the co-star of the film was the seagull. Yeah. The seagull needed an award for being the best co-star of that film because the seagull brought us. I mean, he was the main character all along. I mean, he was the one that was keeping her going,
keeping her sane.
The fucking seagull.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have not talked about this one. Starred, of course, Jason Statham, Lee being Ruby Rose, Rainn Wilson, Jessica McNeil, Cliff Curtis, Sunya Safikau. I mean, you basically the story of expedition team go to the bottom of the ocean, discover there's a whole nother world, and bada bing, bada boom, they release a giant Meg into the world. Meg starts to make a caper, eating people. It's a huge prehistoric shark in the loose. We need Jason Statham to save us. Woo! And then, of course, Jason Statham indeed does come to the rescue. However, you had some good special effects in this movie. I think the special effects are pretty decent. I'm not even going to say decent. They're pretty good compared to all the other stuff we've seen. Of course, no stock footage, so you got to give the Meg a +10 on that. That there's no stock footage in this film; it's all original. But the idea is where I think the film really falls through, and we won't discredit it so much for that because it is literally, out of all these films we've talked about so far, the highest budgeted B movie of all time almost.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is basically like all the other films, but basically it's a high budget with high paid actors in it. But the Meg is fun. I mean, what do you guys think of the Meg?
Yeah.
I,
Oh
I think
man.
it's fun.
Yeah, Rob, it's funny that you say that and that we're reviewing all of this because this is the film I was thinking of too. I had to cleanse my palate after watching, Sharks of the Corn, all those films with the Meg, and I did. I actually liked it. I know we reviewed this before, but in the setting of like a shark film that came out in 2018, so it's within recent memory. It does have a B to C level cast, but to be honest, doesn't almost all shark movies have a B? They're not. No shark movie has like a A level
Um,
cast unless you're
Deep
going with
Sea.
like Jaws or something like
And Deep
that.
Blue Sea, yeah.
Deep Blue Sea, but also those guys like LL Cool J and stuff like that. Those aren't like A level people.
Hey, he was
Um,
just getting started.
he was just he was
Jackson
yeah
and LL Cool J were both at A level. Were both A level when the movie was when the movie was shot, produced, and released. LL had 3 hot albums going on at the same time. Samuel L. Jackson was in 12 great movies at that
Oh yeah,
time.
yeah,
yeah. But he's like, but what I'm saying is like Samuel Jackson will do like AAA movies, but he'll also do a trash film. You
right.
know what I mean? Or he'll do an animated thing. So the
But
Meg is great, dude. The effects were good. You're right, Rob. Like when you see the shots of the Meg, dude, what did you think, man?
it's
Like,
good.
3D.
It,
And I was not on. I had no shark movies that I was watching at the time. There was nothing going on within the realm of TV and movie to
it's
where
just
it was,
fresh for you, huh?
yeah, where it was even relevant to where it was like
Yes.
I'm still on a vampires and werewolf kick to this day. So until or superheroes kick to this day. So unless it's like for the Meg, it was one of those movies for me to where it was like, is it gonna be good? Let's go try it. And it really stepped out of the boundaries. I could have gave a fuck who the actors were. All I know is they did a great job. I
Right.
know that
yeah,
the movie made me not want to go into open water anymore. Fuck that. I'm not doing it. I don't care what kind of cruise ship got me on. I don't care if I'm flying over that shit in 100,000 feet in the air. Fuck y'all. I'm not going in that. I'm not doing it.
That's gonna be no. I mean, basically, this is the number one shark film of all time. There is no other film that basically has probably inspired more shark movies, has done more for shark films. Created the first really summer blockbuster was Jaws. Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And in my opinion too, and actually, I think a shared one of the crew here. Probably the greatest horror film ever created. A horror film that defies film itself. Actually goes into the psychological nature of moviegoers as it is. I mean, to the point of where people don't want to even get in the water no more, and some of them haven't even seen this movie. Music scores starred also Roy Schneider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss. Was written by Peter Belchie and Carl Galip, and of course directed by Steven Spielberg. So, what do you think about Jaws, Luke?
Jaws is I would say one of the best films ever made. Like in that era. Some people so both Jaws and Star Wars are kind of like credited with making the blockbuster, like the
Right.
idea of the summer blockbuster. You can take that as you will on whether or not that was a good thing or a bad thing on the whole for the film industry, but yeah, I would say so. As far as movies go, Jaws is one of the best, definitely one of the best made in terms of plotting, pacing, uh, just the whole structure of the film as a piece of suspense is really really remarkable. Like this is like one of Spielberg's first films ever, and it's still one of his best. Like it's
Right.
still even after every year, decades and decades and decades, as he's come as a filmmaker, and obviously lots of other films are have have come and shown a lot more polish and confidence. This one still stands up as extremely well done. You kind of always associate it as a horror film, and it definitely there are moments that are like that are all about the suspense. But overall, it still is just a well-paced story about a terror that lurks in the deep.
Not to
Uh,
mention a iconic score by John Williams that has basically revolutionized transcendent movies. But also, it has one of the most iconic scenes in movie history. A scene that is basically ranked as one of the best, which is the iconic Indianapolis scene, where they're all
oh,
sitting in
oh,
there in the galley, and basically they're talking about the scars, and then eventually they start singing the song, and then he's like, "You ever seen a shark? It's got
oh
dead
yeah,
eyes, black eyes like a doe's eyes, let the eyes roll back on ya." It's such
yeah,
a great scene, and it's one of those two in writing where it's an example of how you almost transcend the scene itself from like they're having fun, they're having humor, to this part of like, holy shit, what he went through surviving on the Indianapolis was
yeah.
truly crazy in itself, and the things
It,
he saw were, that's why he is the way he is. He's a shark hunter the way
Yeah, and it's such a evolution of the characters' three relationship too, as they've
right,
now they've come to this point of like understanding between the three of them, who are all very very different people, um, bickered and now are like in the ship. One of the things that's always kind of interesting to me is that the ship stuff is, I believe, it's only the last third of the movie. You kind
right,
of feel that it's always been like it's always a ship, but most of the movie takes place just on the shores, everybody kind of dealing with the shark. And again, obviously the shark does not, as we know, very rarely appears in the movie because of the shark animatronic. They
mhm,
get it to work for long periods of time, um, if at all, and so had to rely on not showing it. You know, one of the
Bruce,
one of the most classic examples of like a series going so bad that it reverses it and actually turns out, and it makes this incredible decision just because of how bad everything went on. This actually, it's interesting because this Star Wars and
right,
Apocalypse Now all are like this trio of films that came out all around the same time. Three filmmakers that kind of like sort of jumped the 70s film, film library.
mhm,
Huge, all three iconic, and all three directors kind of like paved the way for how Hollywood would do films for a brief amount of time before it caved in on itself. But all three were for the production side, complete disasters. Uh,
right.
Jaws, very like I believe, uh, you know, it took too long, went over budget. Everything, Steven Spielberg was, putting his ass on the line because it looked like it was not gonna fucking happen.
Mhm.
With the amount of things that like weren't working, and the amount of times they just wouldn't, they weren't getting what they needed, and yet somehow they were able to pull it all after that and make the film that they made, which is it's one of those just hit for the
Beautiful
fence.
disasters.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would agree.
Universal. It all has all sorts of things that don't go away now. The way that
The upward shot in the water, now anytime someone sees that pan of a shot,
uh,
basically kind of, you think shark, even though if there's no shark whatsoever. It could be like a Disney film, and they'll
yeah,
show the character swimming from, up, down below from above shot, and basically you think, oh my god, there's a shark there, and usually
yeah.
that's from Jaws.
There's the shot of the camera zoomed in on uh, Roy Schneider's face as he's in the at the beach. There's
Hmm.
kids being bit by the shark. There's the canister blowing it up, which I believe MythBusters they tried to replicate the
Doesn't work.
doesn't work. I mean, it would have hurt the thing. It wouldn't have exploded. The tank would have just
Yeah.
would have gone crazy. It might have killed it, but yeah, it wouldn't have exploded. Um, what else was there? Yeah, and it's funny too because like there were three additional sequels and pretty much nobody talks about any of them.
It seems like they go in order from quality,
Oh,
because
definitely.
because Jaws 2 was actually pretty good. Actually, I would make the argument that the sequel to Jaws is actually just as strong as the first film. There's just as much terror in it as there is, from the first one. Even though there's a shark, even though you come into this knowing that there's a shark, it still has a lot of suspense and and it still is connected to the main story with Brody and everything and his son basically trying to survive the shark. And basically then you get to Jaws, which they did in like 3D, which completely looks like utter crap. And
The
then
Jaws 4.
Jaws
Said
Revenge is with the basically Jamaican.
Jamaican, and then the plot that like the shark is after the person,
Right.
which is like, okay, well then just stay away.
Stay away from the water. Right,
Yeah.
because in Jaws Revenge, like her son basically Brody's kid basically gets eaten by the shark, and it's like, okay, you didn't have to become a sheriff
Yeah.
on the water. You could have been. You could have stayed in town. You could have stayed on land. And you would think from the history of this family, with all this going on, you'd be like, let's sell this $1 million home and go somewhere else.
Let's get out of here. Yeah.
But no, we still want to be tangling with the teeth.
Between the title being so simplistic of just Jaws, number two about just the shark, it's all about just one shark, and the shark expert in the film being as characteristic as he is of like, yeah, I'll catch the shark, and then getting like to a point where he's super terrified. He's like yelling at the other crew members
And then
because he's
getting
slowly
bit
like,
in half.
yeah, bit him in half, bit the
Really?
shark
They
thing in
fear.
half.
And becoming the cliche representation of, it's like, oh God, the crocodile hunter got killed by a crocodile, even though he didn't. Rest in peace, Steve Irwin. But you know what I mean? Like Lake Placid, for example, where the crocodile expert gets
Oh
killed
my-
by the crocodile. It's always that. It's like,
Like-
oh, the bear expert's here. He's like, and then he always says this line: "I've never dealt with something like this before."
Yeah.
Dead.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, I know what's going on here. You're dead. Boom.
You're dead.
It's the same thing in this film. You're dead. It's a guy who, it's like and then you're like psychologically like messed up because it doesn't end well. Yeah, they live and they paddle away, but you don't see shore.
Fear. The
Yes,
fear
it
of the
does.
unknown. You don't know what the fuck is going on in this movie at
Right.
any point in time because
Yeah.
one is the first of its kind. So you don't know if they turn left, you think that something's coming from the right and it's coming from under
Right.
them. You have no clue. Like it.
And think
it
about how
gave
much
you
that's
a
influenced
fear
films
of
to this
fear.
day. Think about how
Right.
many times you watch a movie, even if it has nothing to do with sharks, and they
And
show
it
that
doesn't-
upshot of the people swimming. You think,
Swimming,
oh shit,
you're
there's a
thinking
fucking
Jaws.
shark.
Yeah,
You're
or you
thinking
see
of
the
a fucking
fin,
shark.
the fin above the water. You're thinking Jaws.
Every surfer movie, every great surfer movie has used that.
Right.
Every great surfer
And
movie
you
has
still
used
think
that.
shark. You go,
Yeah,
oh
shark.
shit, there's a shark.
You think, oh yeah, Jaws.
All right, our sharkaholics. If you're as tired as we are of shark films, then it's time to turn in on this shark special. So we thank you for joining us. We thank you for sticking around for the shark marathon of shark exploitation films, or Sharkploitation. So from the Real Sharks podcast, this is Rob with Luke, Steve, and Dave saying we'll catch you on the flip side.
9
It really
for
sounds
stock
like
footage because it's just green screen effects for the shark and people going like, oh, what? Am I supposed to scream now? Oh, okay. Ah!
And those Ouija sharks. Okay.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Dave?
it sounds like a very great premise of a movie. It just feels like it sounds like
They needed a budget.
like boom, like the 13, like we were talking about 13 Ghosts of Sharks. That would be a fucking amazing movie. Think about it. Every way, every like, okay, say what was it? Moby Dick. Say Moby Dick is a great white shark
Right.
instead of a great white whale. He died by Captain Ahab, so boom, that's one of the sharks. All you're doing is grabbing sharks from out of the mythological stories and putting them in one big ass ship. Same premise, better movie.
I got one. Okay. A guy, right? He gets injected with sharks that have been basically microscopically engineered to start eating his blood cells. And our characters have to shrink down and go inside his bloodstream
Sizzle did
Fighting
this.
sharks.
Sizzle did this. Magic School Bus did it.
Imagine
Right. I'm glad
he
you guys know
injects
what I'm
himself with nano sharks.
with nano sharks. And let me tell you something. Coming from the director Donald Farmer, who brought us Cannibal Hookers, I expected a lot more from this film.
Wait,
and
pause,
and
pause.
it's
Cannibal
20
hookers.
it's
We're not gonna blast
2015.
past that. We're not gonna
It's
blast past that.
it's
We're not gonna blast
2015.
past that.
Shark
Cannibal
Exorcist.
Hooker.
Oh my god, you saw that?
I watched this is Shark
You
Exorcist.
saw that one.
Yes, I said
Wait,
I
we
I
can't
could
blast
barely
by
sit
Cannibal
through this
Hookers
movie.
though.
Yeah,
You
no,
have you have to give you have to give some of our fucking weirdos who watch this show the fucking thing for Cannibal Hookers, dude. You got to give
man.
them the year it came out and all that. Like you
All
got to
right, so
give it.
it's actually from 1987, and as a sorority initiation, two girls have to pose as hookers. Then they turn into zombies and start killing and eating the locals. Um,
I want to see that. I want to see that brought into real life right
You
now.
said that pretty straight laced there, Rob.
well, I know because hey, that's our job here. Dave wanted to know. He wanted to know the premise, so I gave it to him.
Bro, it sounds like some Dust
Fantastic.
Till Dawn shit.
It does.
Yeah.
Sounds like a hidden gem of the 80s.
Oh,
Yes.
So, Sharksism, man.
Shark Exorcist, Rob. What did you think of this
I
film?
couldn't even made it through this film, man. Okay, so I'm
What?
gonna base. I couldn't even make it all through. It has to be done by the same guy who did the Sharks of the Corn, man.
It is the same
Because
guy.
because let me tell you something. It had the puppet shark again in it,
Yes,
and yeah, so it had this. Well, is it the same guy?
It is the same
because
dude.
no, it's the same guy. But anyway, this was done with a camcorder, man. This actually looks like it was done with a cell phone.
I think it might have
I'm
been
not.
something like that because it's shot just like Sharks of the Corn, and dude, I don't know what to say about this film, Rob. I mean, obviously this is your film, so you talk about it, man, because I was stunned watching this.
Watching. Oh, so you actually got around to Shark Exorcism?
I did, yeah.
So it looks like it's done on a cell phone. Basically, you had horrible. Even the actors are laughing at some of their lines, especially when the guys doing the first girl, daddy, I'm a bad girl, and she's all like, you know where to put it, daddy.
Oh God, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it was a shark puppet, but basically the whole film was about a priest exorcising a house that has a shark that possesses a house. So take out ghost, insert shark possession. It's not even near the fucking ocean. So that's why I'm going to give this one a 0 on special effects because you don't see the shark. It's a puppet. But I'm going to give it a plus 10 for no stock footage.
Oh. Yeah, I know because it was that just I don't even know what it was, dollar store shark puppet that they found.
Yeah, I was taken back by this one. I actually could
Pretty
not
original.
get through it. Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, pretty original. I couldn't get through it all.